Philippines versus Malaysia. Why freedom helps some expats and breaks others. Look, if you watched the last video, we talked about why Malaysia attracts so many expats and why many will not stay long term. Not because Malaysia is unwelcoming, but because it's structured selectively and designed to protect its systems. Today, I want to talk about what happens next, because when people leave Malaysia, they don't usually go home. They look for something more flexible. And very often, that place is the Philippines. Now, if you're an American in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, thinking about moving abroad, retiring overseas, or building a long-term life in Southeast Asia, this distinction matters more than almost anything else, because Malaysia and the Philippines solve very different problems for expats. Now, if you don't understand what each country is optimized for, you can make a decision that feels right at first, but it slowly becomes very expensive, financially, emotionally, and mentally. Philippines, it's one of the easiest countries in the world for Americans to move long term. They have flexible visas, a low cost of living compared to the US, English widely spoken, and warm, welcoming people. For many retirees and expats, that feels like the reset button. And that accessibility, it's real. But accessibility, that comes with trade-offs. And here's the core difference, okay? Malaysia, it filters people through structure. Philippines, it exposes people through freedom. The Philippines, it doesn't stop you from making mistakes. It lets you make them. And if you arrive late in life without a plan, without discipline, or without realistic expectations, those mistakes don't show up all at once. They show up slowly. And this is where people talk about death of 1,000 cuts. Not one big failure, not one dramatic moment, just small frictions that add up over time. And the Philippines has a lot of small frictions. Let's start off with infrastructure. Not in a dramatic way and not in a developing country rant. Look, in a lived-in, practical way, the Philippines works, but it works unevenly. You have power interruptions, internet instability, traffic that turns basic errands into half-day events. Individually, none of them are deal breakers. Collectively, they can wear you down. And then there's bureaucracy. Almost everything takes a lot longer than it should. Your visas, your licenses, permits, banking, paperwork. It's not things that can't be done. It's the rules that don't apply consistently. You don't always know which version of a system you're dealing with today. And unpredictability, that's going to drain energy faster than even difficulty. Corruption fits into this, but not in the way people think usually. It's not always envelopes of cash. It's friction. Things moving only when the right person's involved. Systems that don't improve because no one's incentivized to fix them cleanly. Again, nothing dramatic, just exhausting over time. And here's the important part. The Philippines doesn't punish you quickly for ignoring these things. Nah, it waits. You adapt around the problems. You spend a little more, you outsource a little more, and you tell yourself, that's just how it is. And slowly, the cost shows up somewhere else. In your patience, your finances, even in your relationships. This is why some men thrive here, and others, they quickly hit the wall in a year or two. Not because they were scammed, not because Filipinos are bad, and not because the country's broken, but because freedom without structure, it always collects interest. Now, I've watched this happen again and again. Men arrive relaxed, excited, because they feel younger, life feels lighter, decisions feel easier. Then over time, the small friction starts compounding. They get tired of navigating those systems, tired of improving solutions, tired of always being the foreigner working around these gray areas. And then when people get tired, they make bad decisions. And this is how the Philippines exposes people. Not immediately, gradually. And the Philippines doesn't force clarity, it delays it until the math or the energy runs out. Now compare that to Malaysia. Malaysia, a lot harder up front. More rules, more structure, more costs. But less erosion. The Philippines, much easier up front. Much more flexible and more warmth. Lower barriers for entry. But the long-term friction, that's the trade-off. This doesn't mean the Philippines is a bad choice. It means it demands something specific from you. You must bring your own structure. Now, that means your own routines, your own financial boundaries, your own patience. Now, if you do the Philippines, it can be deeply rewarding. Now, if you don't, it's going to slowly wear you down and take you out. Not angrily, not indifferently, but gradually. And this is where the story continues. Because some people don't wait for that exposure to fully run its course. They give up, they leave early. Not because they failed, but not because something went wrong, but because they're tired of the friction and looking for something that feels easier again. And very often, that next stop is Thailand. Thailand's definitely different. It's smoother, more polished, much more exciting. The food is incredible. The experiences are unforgettable. The country knows how to make today feel amazing. But that also comes off with its own trade-offs, because countries built around experience solve very different problems than countries built around stability or flexibility. So, in the next video, I want to talk honestly about Thailand. Why so many expats love it, why it's one of the most popular expat destinations in the world, and why for many Americans later in life, it works far better as a place to visit than a place to build a long-term base. This isn't about good countries and bad countries. It's about fit. Malaysia filters, the Philippines exposes, Thailand, it seduces. And understand which one you're responding to is going to save you time, money, and a lot of unnecessary friction and frustration. And that's what this channel is about. Understanding the trade-offs and choosing them consciously. If that perspective, if that makes sense to you, you know what? In the next video, it's going to make even more. So, on that note, I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.